Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Peyton if you're new here, and I'm so happy that you are watching this. In today's video we are going to talk about all the books that I want to reread in 2025. Now, I read a lot of books. Like last year I read 104 books, and most of those were books that I read for the first time. But there were some books that I did reread last year, and I am just someone I like to reread. It's like rewatching a comfort movie or a comfort TV show. And I know that some people don't reread books, and that's totally okay too, but these are just some books that I desperately want to reread because they are like my all-time favorites. And as you can see by the thumbnail of this video, we have a large stack of books here, and we have even more that I don't have the physical book with me because like I borrowed it to a friend or something, but I have a bunch of notes in my phone. So yeah, we're just going to jump right into it and start off with the first book that I want to reread, which is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I read this book in 2023, so it has been a minute, and Taylor Jenkins Reid was really one of my first favorite authors. And I love her writing so much. I am so excited for her new book coming out, I believe in April of this year. But Malibu Rising is just amazing. I love that her books are set in the 80s, 90s time. And yeah, very, very excited to read this or reread it. And probably sometime this summer just because it's set in Malibu, of course. And yeah, very, very excited to check this book out again. I absolutely loved it the first time I read it, and I feel like I'm going to like it even better now as I get to reread it. Another Taylor Jenkins Reid book I want to reread is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I think this was the first Taylor Jenkins Reid book that I read, and it did not disappoint. This was a 5-star read. I loved it so much. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time, and I cannot recommend it enough. It is totally worth the hype, and yeah, this is one of my top books from her, and I really want to reread this probably sometime this spring maybe. It's amazing. She's amazing. I love her. You can't tell already, Taylor Jenkins Reid is probably my favorite author. And another book I want to reread is Forever Interrupted. This book is an emotional roller coaster. That's all I'll really say about it. I mean, you can kind of get the whole synopsis just on the back of the book. It tells the story. It talks a lot about grief, and I feel like she did it really well, and it was just a really, really powerful book to read, and yeah, I loved it. I was sobbing while reading this, and there are very few books that actually make me cry while I read it, and this was one of them. I really, really loved it, and yeah, I want to reread this, but I know it'll hurt again, but it's just one of those books that the writing was so incredible that I feel like I need to reread this, and yeah, but just if you're not looking for a really, really sad book, then I wouldn't recommend it because it's very, very emotional. Okay, I promise that I do want to read other authors, but I also want to reread One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I loved this book. It is different than some of her other books. It's not set in the past and everything, and it is just such a unique premise of this book. And it is also a movie, and I watched the movie. I recommend that as well, but the book is just so incredible. And just a synopsis, it follows Emma, who married her high school sweetheart Jesse, and they were married for a few years, and then Jesse is a travel, a nature documentarian, and he goes on a helicopter to go on this assignment, and then the helicopter is missing over the ocean, so he's gone. And then years later, Emma is kind of trying to rebuild her life, and then Emma runs into her old friend Sam, and they reconnect their friendship, and they start a romantic relationship, and then they get engaged. And shortly kind of in their engagement, then Emma receives a phone call from her husband Jesse that he is alive and that he survived. So now she has to kind of navigate this. I mean, calling it a love triangle is not doing it justice, but she has to navigate all the grief that she had for Jesse, but now he's back and he's here, and then she has real feelings for Sam. It's an emotional roller coaster. I loved it, and yeah, I also want to rewatch the movie at some point, probably when I reread the book, but yeah, definitely recommend this one as well. Okay, the final Taylor Jenkins Reid book that I want to reread is my favorite book by her, which is Carrie Soto is Back. I literally love this book and I am obsessed with this book. Like, I think about it all the time. If you don't know, Carrie Soto is regarded as like one of the best female tennis players of all time, and this is set like in the 80s. And then she receives an injury, so her career is ended, I believe when she's around 30 years old. But she still has the title of like winning the most opens for a female tennis player. I apologize if I'm getting any of this wrong. I don't watch tennis, so I don't really know how it all works outside of what's written in this book. But yeah, she still has the record for the most like open title wins. But then when she is in her late 30s, there is a young tennis player who ends up like tying Carrie Soto's record for the most titles won. So Carrie decides to come out of retirement like several years after she has retired, or was forced into retirement because of an injury. And so she's training to kind of get back her glory and get back her titles. So yeah, that's why it's called Carrie Soto is Back. And I loved it. I grew up playing sports. I'm still a very, very active person. I run, I coach sports. So I really like just the whole sport aspect of it. And then I just really like Carrie Soto as a character. I think that she's very, very relatable with how competitive she is and how driven she is. And yeah, I absolutely loved it. It is my favorite book by Taylor Jenkins Reid, like by far. Like, even though I just listed 4 other of her books that I want to reread, and like these are 5-star books, they do not compare to Carrie Soto is Back, in my opinion. But yeah, I love Taylor Jenkins Reid. Those are the books that I want to reread. But seriously, if you want to read all of her books, I recommend. I've read all of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books. The other 3 that I don't want to reread, at least at this moment, are Daisy Jones and the Six, Maybe in Another Life, and then After I Do, which I believe those were like 4-star books though, so they're still really great. So just basically the moral of the story is read her books because she is incredible. Another book that I want to reread this year is actually a trilogy of books that I have read multiple times, and that is The Summer I Turned Pretty. Maybe my favorite book of all time. I love these books so much. I first read them in 2021, I believe, and then I reread them in the summer of 2022, and then 2023, and then I reread them last summer. It's just they're my summer books now. They are so fast-paced, so easy to read, and I mean, season 3 comes out this summer, and if you've read the books, you know that season 3 is Conrad's time to shine, and I am 100% Team Conrad. Please let me know if you are also Team Conrad. If you are Team Jeremiah, I respectfully disagree with you, but we're all friends here. So yeah, I really want to reread The Summer I Turned Pretty for the millionth time, and I definitely will be listening to the audiobooks when I reread them, because the audiobooks are incredible. They are narrated by the cast, which I love. So the first book, The Summer I Turned Pretty, is narrated by Lola, oh my gosh, what's her last name? Lola Tongue. And then the second book is narrated by Lola and then Gavin, who plays Jeremiah. And then the third book is narrated by Lola and then Christopher Briney, who plays Conrad. So definitely recommend the audiobooks as well. And I'm not even a big audiobook person, but they just are the characters now for me with the TV show, and so it's great to hear them narrate their story in their voice. Another summer book that I want to reread is Abby Jimenez, Just for the Summer. I know this only came out not even a year ago, and I read it over last summer, and I loved it. It is my second favorite Abby Jimenez book, and I think this might just be a new summer book for me to read, just like I read The Summer I Turned Pretty every summer. I feel like this is just going to be one of those books, and it is set on Lake Minnetonka in Minnesota, which I live in Minnesota, and I've grown up around lakes, so I love the setting of it. I really love the characters. I love just their connection with each other, and I mean, Emma is amazing, that's the female main character, but then Justin, the male main character, is like the perfect man. He's just so kind and considerate and thoughtful, and I just love them together. I love just how they communicate with each other and how their connection just grows throughout the book. But this is also a book that has some heavy topics, like most of, or all of Abby Jimenez's books. So look up any trigger warnings before you dive into her writing, but She tackles it really well, like very, very heavy topics, but done in such a brilliant way. And yeah, I cannot say enough great things about her, but this is definitely a book that I will be rereading this summer. Okay, another book I want to reread that I don't have the physical book because I loaned it to a friend is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, which is my favorite book of hers, like by far. Like, I love Just for the Summer and I love her other books. Yours Truly, it was the first book of hers that I'd ever read, and I have just never read a book that has such great representation of anxiety. Like, it is unmatched how well she wrote anxiety, or at least how my anxiety feels. And it's in the mailman character, which is a refreshing take to have as well. And yeah, I love Brianna and Jacob in that book. They are just great people, and I feel like they have a great connection and just a great friendship on top of their relationship. Yeah, I want to reread that book. I read it like not even a year ago, but it's constantly in my thoughts, and it was my favorite book that I read in 2024 for good reason, because it is truly amazing. Another book I want to read is In 5 Years. This book is just incredible, is the only word I can use to describe it. It is a very, very emotional read, I will say that. I read this in one sitting. I remember it clearly reading it. It was last February, I believe. I picked it up and it's only like 250 pages. You can fly through it. And this was like 5 p.m. and I just read it in one sitting. And I was glued to the pages of this book. I think about this all the time. It was one of my top books from last year, and yeah, I loved it. I don't really want to talk about it too much because I don't want to spoil it, because like the description on the back of the book gives you a little bit of the story, but not the whole story. So I don't want to spoil anything, but I really, really recommend this book. I loved it, and like I was really disappointed the other day because I started using Goodreads to track my reads like late last year. And I looked up the ratings for this book, and it is not as high as I think it should be, which is disappointing because I loved this book, and I love the author's writing style, and yeah, I don't know. I recommend checking it out. Just be prepared. It is an emotional read, and it might make you cry. I was sobbing while reading this, but sometimes you just need a good book that makes you cry, I guess. So, oh well. Okay, the next two books are much lighter than In 5 Years, so I'd recommend reading these maybe after you read that if you want to get happier after that emotional experience. And that is The Cheat Sheet and the Rule Book by Sarah Adams. Now, I love The Cheat Sheet more than the Rule Book, but these are both amazing football romances that have fake dating and like a fake marriage. And they are both incredible. I love them so much. I love Sarah Adams too. They are both, well, The Cheat Sheet is fully like closed door romance. And then the Rule Book, if I remember correctly, it is a closed door romance except for one chapter it has spice in it, but it's contained in one chapter. Which I really like authors that do that, because if you don't like spice, then you can still read the books and enjoy the emotional parts and the romance of it. But yeah, I really want to reread these books because they are just some of my favorite rom-coms I've ever read. And I'm definitely going to reread these next fall during football season because they follow two football players. In this book, it follows Nathan, a quarterback. And then this book, it follows Derek, who is a tight end. And then, yeah, follows their relationships, and cannot say enough great things about these books. And then just Sarah Adams, her writing in general. I mean, I just read Beg, Borrow, or Steal, which was her new release for the month, and I loved that book as well. I almost included that book in this reread pile, but I'm like, I finished it like 3 weeks ago. Like, I need to take a second on that book. But yeah, she is an incredible author. Another book that I want to reread this year is Happy Place by Emily Henry. I really, really loved this book. This is my second favorite book of hers, and I loved it. I loved the setting of the book, and I just love the idea of a happy place in general because I feel like I definitely have a happy place, and I just love that the friend group has continued to go to their happy place together. And yeah, I love this book. I love the characters so much, and Emily Henry is a great writer. So definitely want to reread this book in the summer, as it is set in the summer. And yeah, I cannot say enough great things about this book and Emily Henry. Another Emily Henry book that I want to read that I don't have the physical book for here with me is Beach Read, which I think is my #1 favorite book by her. I read it like a year before I read Happy Place, which I think is my second favorite. So I want to reread Beach Read to see how I feel about it, see if it's still like my #1 book by Emily Henry. But I'm definitely going to read that in the summer. And yeah, looking forward to that because I remember that I absolutely loved it. Like, loved the characters, loved their banter, loved the whole plot of it follows two writers who one of the writers writes like I believe romance books, and the other one writes more like serious fiction, and then they challenge each other to switch genres so that the guy now has to write a romance and the girl has to write this more serious book, and then they're kind of enemies or rivals. And yeah, they are renting cabins next door to each other for the summer while they're writing. And I mean, perfect setting. I really, really loved it. And yeah, I love Emily Henry, so I'm very, very excited to reread that book. It was incredible. Okay, I have one more book that I really want to reread this year, and that is Nothing Like the Movies by Lynn Painter, which was my second favorite book of 2024. I loved this book. I love Better Than the Movies, and that is an amazing book. I think Nothing Like the Movies is better. I don't know. I know a lot of people disagree with that, and some people don't like this book, but I disagree with all of you that think that. And I love Nothing Like the Movies so much. I love Liz and Wes and how their relationship evolves in the time jump between Better Than the Movies and then Nothing Like the Movies. I loved it so much. Like, I was nervous when I knew that this sequel would be coming out because I had heard what it was about, and I was just nervous about how Lynn Painter would, I don't know, create some tension in their relationship without destroying their bond, and she did it perfectly. I love this book too because it is set in college, and I am currently in college, and I feel like not a lot of romance books are set. Like, young adult books are like, we're in high school. And then, like, adult romance books are like, we're in our late 20s or 30s. And I just really liked that they were in college. It made it really relatable. And I love that it followed a lot of baseball because baseball and softball are like my favorite sports to watch. And so I loved that. I love that we get Wes's point of view in this book because Wes is amazing. He is a like top 3 book boyfriend, and yeah, I love them together. They are just so cute together, but then this book has so many emotional moments too. Sorry if you heard that car. Anyway, this book has so many emotional moments, which is rare in romance books, let alone like young adult romance. And I just love that. I cannot say enough great things about it. I might read it this spring because it's like baseball season this spring, even though it is set in like the fall season. So I don't know. I'll be reading this at some point this year, and I am excited about it because it is an incredible book. Those are all of the books that I want to reread in 2025. Let me know if you have read any of these books and if you liked them, if you didn't like them. And also let me know if you are going to be rereading any books this year or if you like to reread books in general. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next vlog.